Are you ready to explore the unknown? Dive into the world of the strange, mysterious, and unexplained with Eerie Expeditions magazine. Each issue is packed with spine-tingling tales, cutting-edge paranormal investigations, and exclusive insights into hauntings, cryptids, UFOs, and more. Whether you're a seasoned investigator or just love a good ghost story, Eerie Expeditions magazine has something for you. Join our growing community of truth seekers and adventure lovers. Subscribe today at EerieExpeditionsMagazine.com and unlock the secrets of the supernatural. Are you ready? That's EerieExpeditionsMagazine.com, where the extraordinary is just a click away. Dare to discover.
Welcome to the Gateway, broadcasting live from the edge of the Mojave where the strange slips through the cracks. We are live on United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM, and I'm your host this evening, C.L. Thomas. Tonight I'm talking with Tony Rathman. He's a leading researcher in Instrumental Transcommunication, ITC, and Electronic Voice Phenomena, EVP. But before we get into that, you've been listening to Sean Kelly with Into the Night right here on Public Radio Network 107. Right after my show is Paratruth with Eric and Justin. Always a great lineup here, so stay tuned after my show. I hope everyone is well. I see a couple people on already. I'm sure Heidi's always on. How are you doing, Kiers? I just got back from the Williamsburg, Virginia area, and I got to say, colonial America is just something that is very fascinating to me. I got a chance to do an investigation at Shields Tavern. It's one of the oldest taverns that is still in operation. I think it started in 1706. And this place has some great history to it. It has a murder mystery tied to it where the actual owner was murdered on site. They think another tavern person who couldn't quite get his license to run a tavern from the crown at the time. You got to remember, we were still under the British crown. It was, but he couldn't get his license from them in order to run another tavern. The crown said they had too many at the time. And so I guess he figured if he would off somebody that he didn't like that ran a tavern, it'd be one less tavern on the street and he could get his license granted. Needless to say, the whole town really believed he did it, even though he got off, and it still remains a murder mystery. But after the owner was murdered, his daughter takes over this tavern, and which is unheard of back then for a female to run a tavern like this, specifically since this particular tavern is only a few doors down from the governor's house, which was England. Remember, this is England. So a couple years later, once the revolution started ramping up, you got to remember too, there was a lot of meetings happening and kind of disgruntlements going on between the colonists and the crown before, 1776. There was a whole lot of stuff that went on in between. Well, Shields Tavern became one of those places where the colonists would kind of meet up and discuss things right underneath the British Crown's nose. It's really interesting story. And the place has a lot of activity going on, just so many layers of activity, because after the Revolutionary War and after, it became America, then you had the Civil War that came in, and it was kind of like very similar. So you have layer upon layer. It's just a really great place to investigate and walk around. I was really impressed. But tonight's discussion is about the future of spirit communications and Staticom. I welcome back my guest, Tony Rathman, whose work continues to push the boundaries of consciousness studies and inspire others to explore the unknown. Let me get him on here. He was on my show before. Tony, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, CL. It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell me, How did you get into this spirit communication to begin with? What's your story?
Well, I actually had no interest at all, and I was a non-believer of any of this. It was my wife who kind of trapped me on Valentine's Day back in 2010. And she said, I want to do something different. I said, okay, what do you want to do? She said, I want to go ghost hunting. And I was just like, are you kidding me? But I had two choices. I could take her or I could have her mad at me until next Valentine's Day.
Where did she come up with that idea?
Well, she started watching the shows that were coming out back then. And she's like, oh, sit and watch this with me. You're going to love it. And I'd last about 2 minutes and I'd look at her and go, none of this is real. This is for television only. This is BS. And I'd get up and I'd walk away. Because, I mean, my father taught physics for 46 years. And so as a kid, everything I asked was, scientifically based answers. Dad, why is the sky blue? Well, because of the atmosphere and there's water vapor in the sunlight. Most reflective color. And that's why the sky looks blue. Not anything about ghosts, demons, so... But anyway, so she said she wanted to go ghost hunting. I knew I had to take her. So I did a little internet research, found a hotel here in the Phoenix area that had a reputation of being haunted. So I booked it for the weekend, thought I was done, and then realized, wait, they're using various pieces of equipment. So I bought her a night vision camera, digital recorder, and an EMF meter and said, okay, now we can go. So we went, she had a blast. I played along, acted like it was wonderful. And I figured the stuff would sit in the closet and that would be the end of it. Well, when she started reviewing the materials, especially the audio, there were EVPs on there, and it just blew my mind where these voices were coming from, how they got on there, and how they were intelligently answering questions that we asked. Like I asked, what's your name? Tell me your name. And a name showed up. And I was like, no, this can't, there's got to be a vent. Because we were in the basement at like 3 a.m. I'm like, there's got to be a vent that voices were coming through from somewhere else in the hotel. I said, let's go back and look again. Nope, no vent. No outside light shining in that may have been affecting the photos because there was strange things in the photos. And that's how this all began. But I was completely interested in voices because the vocals are, to me, the top paranormal capture, because it's like handed a bucket load of information. I can tell if it's male or female. I can tell if it's an adult or child. I can tell their emotional state. Are they happy? Are they angry? Are they upset? I can tell what language they're speaking. I can tell if they have a territorial accent or dialect with the way they speak. There was so much information that I would receive before I even heard the actual response. That to me was unmatchable to any other form of capture. And so that's what we went after. And for all the years after that, we're coming up, well, not coming up, we're on 16 years now of this research. And still not anywhere near ready to put it down and probably never will.
And just to add to that, for me anyway, when you're in an environment like Williamsburg, for instance, over the weekend I was there, when you're on site doing burst sessions with just a little recorder and all of a sudden you capture evidence and somebody else across the room is picking something up, not only does it give you kind of a backing that that person's not crazy, but it's also very hard to make that up.
Right.
Like, where did that voice come from? There's just no way to, what's the word I'm trying to look for?
Well, it's an anomalous voice. How did it?
Right.
Because you didn't hear it with your own ears. So it's outside of human hearing to begin with, but the electronics within the recorder were able to pick it up. But again, how did that happen? Not only did the voice appear, but when it answers a question you asked, then the questions just keep going. What is this intelligence? How did it know what I asked? If it's not human bodied in front of me, how did it even hear me? Those are all questions in our research we went after to figure out how that's happening.
It's really interesting. It's just something you can't fake either.
Well, I mean, there's things in science like what's called a double voice. I think it's called. I may be saying that wrong. But where certain sounds can get picked up by recorders that you're not going to hear with your human ear because it's a doubling effect. So are there ways, either voices or even vocal anomaly can show up on a recorder that aren't voices? Yes, there is. And then you've got, other concerns like pareidolia, where you think you're hearing something because your brain's trying to pattern recognize it. So when we started going down the path of building equipment, that was one of the things we were trying to pick that low hanging fruit off the tree. One, to clear the voice, and then the big one with Staticom was to remove the radio completely, because it's really hard to say you're getting a voice from the other side when your device is literally a human construct called a radio, which pulls RF signal out of the atmosphere and produces vocals or music.
For the listeners who are new at this, they may not even know what Staticom is. Can you kind of explain how this differs from the traditional spirit boxes or the EVP methods?
Absolutely. And the easiest way to do that, there's a clip called Staticom description. It's like a 30,000 foot overview of it, but because it gives real clear top level understanding of what it is, how it works, I think that'd be the first way to introduce it.
Okay, I'll play that right now.
Awesome.
A pioneer with 16 years of research and 14 different device iterations, realized a fundamental truth. Spirits do not need radio waves. They need raw energy. This realization led to the birth of Staticom 3.0. This is not a spirit box. It is a breakthrough in instrumental transcommunication. Unlike traditional devices that scan radio frequencies, Staticom 3.0 is a closed system, not using radio signals, word banks, or voice-generated AI, and is shielded from radio signals, satellite signals, and electromagnetic interference. This means there is zero chance of a stray broadcast, a commercial, or a music clip being mistaken for a spirit voice. At its core, the system utilizes broadband white noise and scientific principles called kinetic manipulation and stochastic resonance simultaneously to create the voice and then to elevate the signal. By providing a high-frequency energy field that acts as a blank canvas, spirits can manipulate that blank canvas, the broadband white noise, at a molecular level to form clear, audible speech. Tony has moved the field away from broken fragments and into the realm of direct voice, real-time, two-way communication that functions like a bridge between worlds. The results are not just clear, they are intelligent. Through Staticom 3.0, we are hearing spirits speak in full, grammatically correct sentences. They are identifying objects in the room and answering complex questions with zero delay. When Tony asked, "How do you hear me speak?" the response was instant. Energy of the mind. This is more than ghost hunting. It is validation. In recent demonstrations, families have heard the unmistakable voices of lost loved ones, providing a level of closure that was once thought impossible. This is no longer a hobby. It is a mission to unlock the secrets of frequency and vibration. The bridge is built. All proceeds go directly to Staticom research. Now, it is time to listen.
So that's a 30,000 foot overview. But the main difference is that a radio's scanning up and down radio stations. Staticom does not. It is white noise input only. It is a closed system. There are no mics. There are no vocal inputs. The only input is white noise. And then, by strictly speaking in my normal tone of voice, I can ask a question, and the answer comes out the audio. We had this analyzed by a double PhD in electrical engineering and computer science. And he said, there is nothing here that should be producing vocals. There's no AI, there's no word banks. Well, when I say no AI, there's no AI generated vocals. And he said, my only concern's in your white noise generator. He said, I know you have it steel cased. And then we wrapped it in military grade Faraday material.
I was going to ask you this.
But he said, do me a favor. He said, take a 10-foot metal pole, jam it 2.5 feet into the ground, and ground your white noise generator to the 10-foot pole, 2.5 feet in the ground. He goes, if you still get voices, I'll be impressed. We did that. The voices were not changed one bit. They're still there.
Have you done demonstrations with this where people who are completely, I want to say, non-suspecting, I guess, of anything happening, and then they have the voices of their loved ones coming through? How are they responding to this?
Well, we were at Phenomicon in April or May, I think of, no, September, maybe September or October. I can't remember. Anyway, but yes, we had people who came in, listened to the presentation, and then we ran it live. We literally had 3 or 4 people in the 1.5-hour live session that we did literally drop to their knees in tears because they recognized the voice, they got the message that they were looking for, and to not be aware that that's going to happen and have it happen was very emotional for them and for us to see it.
Wow. So you normally, for this kind of communication to happen, you normally have to have, like with people who are involved with consciousness and psychics and that sort of thing, you usually have like a psychic medium, and then you have like the family member on one side, the psychic medium who's conveying the messages. This completely like takes out all equipment and people. It just leaves the person in the consciousness.
Correct. And then when people ask us, okay, so how much of this factor is the actual equipment? And my answer is the equipment's about 40%. The other 60% is the individual or their consciousness. That is where the connection lies. When that answer came back where I asked, how do you hear me speak? And they said, energy of your mind. That's the thing. They're not actually hearing me speak. The only reason I have to physically say it out loud is that if I'm recording, so the recorder picks it up. They get it from my thoughts. And that is a consciousness, a fractal portion of consciousness, which is what we believe we are as human beings, sending that energy back to universal consciousness, which is what we believe we return to after we pass on from this life. And consciousness is the real factor making all this happen.
That even makes it even more interesting that you're telling me that this is working through your mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, the transfer of information originally is going from my thought process to whatever spirits want to reply to it. Then it's coming back through their consciousness, which is affecting and then riding on the white noise stream of energy into the electronics, and then their voice is being heard by our human ears at a frequency that we can hear.
Just to play a little bit of a devil's advocate here, if this can work telepathically and the spirits can hear us telepathically and they can respond in that way, what if it's really not a spirit we're talking to, but more of our own consciousness projecting into it?
Well, if all is needed is white noise, and that means every Monday when I had to get up early, get in the shower, change my clothes, when I'm driving to work listening to the radio, my radio would be screaming, I don't want to do this, go home, go back to bed. I've never heard that. Plus, when we can verify and get responses that we physically don't know ourselves and have to research. Like one time my wife was not feeling well, and I was running Staticom, and she said, I'm in real pain. My stomach is killing me. This is severe. And Staticom was running. I said, okay, do you want me to take you to the emergency room? And she said, I think so. Well, Staticom was running, and I said, spirits, is my wife getting sick? And they said, possible. And then I said, what should she take? And a word came through. I didn't even react because I didn't know what it was, but the word was Percodan. So I researched it. Percodan is a prescription strength pain reliever, a combination of oxycodone and aspirin. Like I said, prescription strength, and it is for severe pain, which I didn't even know what that was. So that wasn't my consciousness putting that in there. It wasn't my wife's consciousness putting it in there. Yet that answer came through, and until I looked up what it was, and that's happened with so many other things as well, that we've had to actually research what it was.
Somebody in the comments mentioned Fae, the Fae. So there's different, what people believe, there's different kinds of spirits, like demons, there's the Fae, there's elementals, there's all these different ideas, I guess, of, and some even believe that maybe we're interdimensional in a way. Does this thing, do you know that if this thing talks to other beings in the universe, like aliens or something like that from a different dimension?
Could it? Absolutely, it could. Would I know the difference if they're speaking in a language myself or my wife understands? No, we would have no idea. If they can relate, translate into English, and speak in a way that I can't tell any different from being different from any other voice coming through, I have no way of identifying who actually is speaking. In fact, we don't have any way of identifying because we don't have spirit caller ID, but we don't know. The only way we can get indications is to ask questions and have them answer those questions. Who was president when you passed away? You know, what was, where were you born? What was, you know, and then go back and try to research those. But, you know, humans can translate any language to any language. Chinese, Japanese, Australian, you know, German, Spanish, doesn't matter. But the reason we can do that is because there is consistency in our environment, meaning we may call it a book and some other language may have a different name for a book, but that's what allows translation. That is why we can't translate dolphin squeals or whale sounds, because we don't have the same environment, and therefore it's not identical to be able to place whatever noises those are into a comprehension that we understand. But if an extraterrestrial or a multidimensional had complete knowledge of our language and an ability to communicate, it would come through Staticom exactly like every other voice, and I know I would have no knowledge unless they said something to indicate it.
Interesting. So how is Staticom being received? Through like media? I know you've been on like Coast to Coast and a whole array of other outlets.
Yeah. Quite positive. You know, you've got people who doubt it, and you know, I don't blame them for doubting it. All I would say is anybody who does doubt it, find somewhere where we're running it live and come listen for yourself. Because like when we were in Halifax, Nova Scotia, giving a live demonstration, we had a woman come up and she said, my father took his own life quite a few years ago. She said, he had a nickname for me. And her mother, her and her father are the only people who knew what that nickname was. So she asked that of Staticom. Staticom said her nickname and just shocked both her and her mother.
Wow.
And had it correct and said it multiple times too.
One of these are, what are your thoughts on if this is like an interdimensional signal?
You know, I because we focus on the idea of analytic idealism, meaning that consciousness is the ontological primitive of everything. the whole world you experience is, you have to be conscious to experience it. All life is mental or mentation. Everything you experience is, the end result is a mental interpretation of what occurred. Then you throw in the fact that things like time and space are man-made concepts. Now, does like quantum physics say that, you know, there are possibilities for other dimensions? Yes. But then if you even go back to like religion, and religion teaches that, you know, heaven's up here and hell's down here. Do we believe that there's an actual physical location of heaven and hell? No, you wouldn't even need it, because depending on your mental state, what you're going through, what you're experiencing, that creates your entire reality. And so we don't believe it's a physical location place. So the only struggle I have with the multi-dimension thing is classifying it on a 3D plane of another layer. Can it be a different vibrational frequency? And yeah, I think all that's possible. And terminology in the English language is what can be confusing. But the concept of it, yes, I think is very possible.
Now, you've been to Japan, you've been to the Philippines. I have to ask this. Have you taken Staticom to Japan or the Philippines?
No, we didn't have it when we were there, but we're taking it when we go back. And we're planning another trip back to the Philippines. So yes, can't wait to do that.
There's obviously, you know, cultural differences in spirit communications in Japan and Philippines compared to the US. How do you think that they're going to, first of all, what are those cultural differences so that the audience know? And second of all, how do you think that they'll respond to something like Staticom?
The cultural difference is that it's, in the last 20 years in America, it's become much more widely accepted. You had TV shows that come out, you have talk shows about all this stuff. You know, 40 years ago, even people who were doing paranormal research didn't talk about it unless they were in a group that they felt comfortable to do so, or they were shunned for what they were doing. The Philippines culture has had a long history of acceptance of spirits existing, of a combination of a plethora of both good spirits and very bad spirits, from the Menengal to, I mean, I could just list off one's names after names after names of different spirits that they believe, and probably most of them still believe exist today. But the openness to it, like the last time we were there and we got permission to investigate various locations, you know, it was wonderful, and to see the excitement around it. And we've got lots of friends that investigate there, and they don't have any concerns with people, any negativity from it. You have people that have concerns about what they might be getting into, but they're very open to it. Staticom's another animal, though, and what it can do, I can't wait to find out. Especially when we did EVPs there, we got EVPs in Japanese, English, Tagalog, and Latin. Can't wait to see what Staticom can do.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. You're in Arizona. Have you taken it to some of the ghost towns?
Oh yeah, we've had it all over. I mean, we had our first version was called DRV, or direct radio voice, which is what Marcello Bacci used. Friedrich Jurgensen, Konstantin Radova all did tests with a version of DRV. Then we took the radio away. It became Staticom with only a white noise generator. Then Staticom 2, Staticom 3, which is functional today. And for the past 3 months, we've been building and trying to put together Staticom 4.
With the cultures that you investigate, like you have the Native American cultures, I'm sure you've investigated that being in Arizona. And then you have the ghost town kind of spirits. You've been to Japan, you've been to the Philippines, all of these different cultures. Is there any culture that kind of is much better at telecommunications and paranormal communications, ITC, than the other?
I wouldn't say from a cultural standpoint, no. It's the individual. It's how open they are, how dedicated they are, and how risk-taking they're willing to be to find answers, to find tie-ins to connecting evidence, and then explore it. But the big thing is just anybody who's open-minded enough doesn't fear it. The thing about the whole energy of the mind thing is that if you walked up to Staticom and asked a question and you were just dreading the answer coming through, guess what? You're probably not going to get one, because the entities, the spirits, consciousness knows what you're feeling, knows what's going through your head. And if they understand that you might get freaked out if you get the answer, guess what? The answer's not going to show up. It's just going to stay silent.
You have a couple of samples that you sent to me. I want to play some of these clips, but I didn't know if you wanted to introduce some of the clips first, or,
Sure.
or how do you want to do this?
Play the one called Staticom 3.0 Responses.
There it is. Okay.
And let me just give a quick overview. This is the night we got Staticom 3 running, or the next night, I can't remember. But this is going to show you Staticom 2. You could ask a question or two and get a response, and then it would quit. When we built 3, we fixed that. It doesn't quit anymore. You can ask question after question after question, and as long as they want to answer, or until we shut the machine off, the conversation can continue. Staticom 3.0 Responses shows the very first time we had real two-way communication. That's the clip you're going to play.
So you can have like a full-on conversation now.
Correct.
How does, before I play this, like how do you set this thing up? Is it a computer that you just turn on? And
It's a combination of hardware, software, and filtration.
okay.
So and 4 is going to be even more complicated.
All right, let me play this real quick.
Rathman, I heard you say Rathman. Yes. What did you want to say to Roger? It's Tony. Spirits, can you hear me? Yes, okay. That was a loud voice that just answered. What's your name? That's a strange name. How many spirits are here with us right now? A lot? A lot, yeah, that's what I thought you said. Because there's so many of you, is that why all the background chatter? They're talking? Do you have any messages for us? Rathman, I heard that.
Wow, Tony.
That was an impressive night for 3, and I'm hoping one's around the corner even more so for 4, but time will tell.
How do you decide where to take this thing?
Well, we'll take it anywhere. I mean, anytime we have an opportunity, next week, we're doing another presentation here in Arizona at the Oracle Paranormal Day, just outside of Tucson.
Oh, goodness.
We're going to run it during an investigation at the El Ranch, and we're going to allow people, even if we're at the most haunted location in the world, everyone wants to ask for a family member or, some piece of information, and we like to allow that to happen as well. We had a lady one time ask. She was a older lady, and her husband committed suicide, and she was very religious. They both were. So she told us that for the last 20 years, she suffers every day because she thinks he's probably in hell and been suffering for the last 20 years. So she asked for him. He flat out, loud and clear answered and said, "Don't worry, I'm fine." And she just, another one that during that time who dropped to her knees just in tears. She recognized the voice. And then she wrote to us after saying, thank you. I needed that. I needed to hear that.
Well, you just brought up a good point too. If we're working with consciousness like this, it shouldn't be that you have to be at a haunted location in order to communicate with the other side.
You are absolutely correct. You don't. Now, can you get some influence based on the location? Absolutely. When we had it running in the Birdcage Theater down in Tombstone, half the conversations were about how expensive the liquor was, how hard it was to walk away from the card games, and how pricey the women were. But so you get information when you're at a location, but you don't have to be. We believe spirits are of non-locality, meaning they can answer from anywhere.
Now, were they talking about the price of their day, or were they talking about inflation of today? Just out of curiosity.
No, they were talking about their day.
I wonder what they would think today.
That would kill them.
So which clip do you want to play next?
Because we just played 3, play the one that says 4th round of testing. This, I think, was the next night. I turned Staticom 3 on. I said, I got to know if this still works like it did the night before. That's what you're about to hear.
Okay.
Or it might have been the same night. I can't remember.
But time what? Well, I can hear you when you whisper. You know that, right? Spirits, if you're not familiar with this device is called Staticom. If you heard me say Staticom. That's better.
Now, can you say Staticom for me, please?
All right, Spirits. If you don't want to say Staticom, let's play another game. What am I holding in my hand? Glasses. Thank you. Thank you very much. How about pineapple? Can you say pineapple? Oh, perfect. Thank you. How come you can't say Staticom like that?
It's one word.
It's one word. Staticom. Have you not been able to talk to humans before? If you can hear me, spirits, say elephant.
Do you know Tony?
It's me. If we use this device to help cold cases, will you answer the questions? Yeah, sure. You bet. Thank you.
That will help.
That'll help a lot.
You just opened up a whole new door to this Staticom business. So if somebody gets like the tavern I was at over the weekend, there's no evidence that this one guy murdered another tavern owner, but it's been a mystery for the last, 300 years. You can take that thing in there and ask him directly who murdered you.
As long as it's something that's already occurred, they'll answer. If it's future related, you will not hear a sound. Why? We call it universal law, but we believe that every person here is here to grow, expand, make mistakes by free will and learn from it, but to evolve. And we don't believe that they can interfere with that in any way, shape, or form. How do I know? We've asked for the winning Powerball numbers 1,000 times. Crickets, not a word. And I even asked something as simple as, I have 2 jobs. Which one should I pick? Which one should I take? They won't tell you that stuff. So if it's future related, they won't answer. But anything from the past that's already occurred, they will.
It's interesting.
For cold cases, we think would be phenomenal. And based on that, there's a clip called Lennon. But before you play it, let me explain what happened, because I think this one's important to play. Now, you're going to hear my wife speaking in Tagalog, and I'm with her. So you won't know what she's asking, but you'll notice they answer in English, even though we've heard them talk to her in Tagalog. In fact, they use a couple of Tagalog terms in it, but they answer in English because I'm there with her. Now, what happened was that I was running Staticom 3 in my lab, and she came walking up to the door, and she had a very distraught look on her face. I said, "Are you okay?" She said, "No." I said, "What's wrong?" She goes, "Do you remember our friend Lennon?" I said, "Yeah, we had dinner with him when we were in the Philippines." "Well, why would you say, do I remember him?" "Of course I do." Well, he unfortunately was shot and killed. He was a politician. And when she's telling me this, Staticom was on, and we heard it say his name. So I said, "Stop, go get your phone. Let's ask some questions." So that's what you're about to hear. You're going to hear our questions and the responses that come through. Now, you're not going to see our faces or anything because this was kind of emotional, but we cannot bypass the answers that were said.
All right.
Yes, he was shot. Lenin, did you know that you were shot? Do you have a message for your family? To your mom? I saw you how they shot you. Or shoot you. Lenin, kilala mo ba kung sinong bumaril sa'yo? Yes, para mabigyan ka ng hustisya. Kilala mo ba kung sinong bumaril sa'yo? Just give me the name, Lenin, so I can help you. Did you know how you were killed? Lenin was shot and killed last Monday.
Lennon, do you know who did it or not? Yes. Can you give a name, please? Let's start with first name. What's his first name? Christian. Had a name? Was Christian a name? Was Christian a first or last name? Okay, first name. Do you have a last name?
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. Now, can we prove it? No. The percentage of murders solved in the Philippines is about 0.01%, for all sorts of different reasons. But to literally, again, in our regular tone of voice, this was in my lab, so we weren't in any haunted location, to ask, to have answer after answer with timing and relevance and intelligence to what we asked come through. We asked for a name. They said Christian. I said, is that a name, first or last? They said first. I said, give me a last name. And then Dreadney shows up. And then you can hear the reaction after it's said, oh, that's it. You know, so now can we prove it? Not yet.
Were you able to take that information, though, to authorities?
We chose not to because we don't know the authorities weren't involved.
Gotcha. Were you able to determine if that was like even a real person that came up?
There's no way to do that. I mean, there's the amount of time it would take to do that. Can it be done? Probably. Do we have the manpower to do it with everything that? No, we don't. But, you know, there was some very direct lines. That was his publisher. Would he have had a publisher being a politician? Probably. When my wife asked directly, do you know what happened? And they said, he's not up yet. That to us was just an incredible response. Like, is there a transition period from being human and alive and transitioning over? Is there a rest period? Is there a period so we were getting the answers, but there was only one or two voices in there that actually sounded like him. And that was when he said, I will always love you, because him and my wife were childhood friends. They grew up together. And then there was one other one, which is eluding me at the moment. But even the line when someone said he partied just last weekend.
Yeah.
He loved to party. And there was another line that said he's apart from his money. Did he love money? Yes, he did. He loved money. So the accuracy that's in there is just mind-blowing.
That's interesting. What else you got in this lineup? I think we have time for one more, maybe.
Okay, play the one called Sinner.
Okay.
Now, this one we just had it running. We were just doing some tests with some friends, but again, you'll hear other people ask questions and get answers besides myself or my wife, and it just shows that it doesn't have to be us.
How many of you talking right now, or how many spirits talking right now?
Do any of you have a message for us?
Spirits, if you can hear us and understand us, say Rathman.
Tony Rathman.
Can we get your name?
Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy.
Jeremy, did you have a family?
Yeah.
Were you married? What was your wife's name?
Catherine.
Is Catherine with you?
Yes.
Are you happy?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Do you guys know that you're dead? Or do you know you're dead?
No. What did you do here when you were here, where we are? What did you do? What was your job?
That's just, I found it fascinating. It's like, what was your job? What did you do here? Sinner.
I can imagine you probably get all kinds of answers like that, don't you? Not so much center, but
All
just
over the
funny
board.
answers.
You know,
Yeah.
and the other cool thing about it, now remember, white noise contains no vocal data. So these voices technically shouldn't be there, but yet they are. And with timing and relevance and intelligence are answering what we asked. Again, not something that by the laws of 3D scientific physics should it be occurring, but it is. And we keep trying to expand on that. But the other cool thing about it is that, and which is why we're always working for additional clarity, is that you don't even have to say anything. You can just turn it on and listen to them talk back and forth to each other, which is sometimes twice as interesting as if I'm asking questions.
Do they ever talk about the living?
Yeah. You can get information, but the second they realize you're there, I mean, even if you start thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I heard that, boom, they know you're there. So it's hard to stay under the shadows in order to get it, because they'll stop if they're talking about something that we're not supposed to hear or know. But yeah, we've heard every conversation you can imagine. Things as typical as if you were walking behind 2 feet behind a group of people walking down the sidewalk, you know, how those conversations will vary and the subject matter will be all over the boards. It's not that dissimilar, but the fact that it's intelligent conversation occurring in a place that we're not sure where that place is or how they're doing it. And then, like I said, we believe it's not kinetic manipulation anymore, but quantum tunneling. So they're literally vibrating that white noise to a point where it escapes the energy wall of the white noise and then gets transferred into our electronics, which then is a similar way how EVPs are captured, direct radio voice happens, or any other vocal response.
Well, Tony, we are all out of time already. I hate that because this was such a great conversation. I still have so many more questions to ask you because this is just so fascinating.
Well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the conversation, so thank you.
You know, what is so truly amazing to me is how their personalities even come out.
Correct.
Through this.
Personality, dialect, vocal structure. So, of course, the question comes in is that if it's all one universal mind, then how are you still getting these personality traits? Well, the answer to that is when people suffered from back then what was called multi-personality disorder, they acted like different people, they spoke differently, but once cured, they realized, wait, that was all me. The whole time, that was all just me. So it's the same concept. No different than when we fall asleep and dream. And you're still you, but you've got all these other characters that are speaking and doing things, and you don't realize they're you. But when you wake up, you go, oh my gosh, I was dreaming. That was all me. My mind, my consciousness. It was me alone.
Where's the future of this?
You know, that's a great question, and I would love to know that answer. It's got so many possibilities. I guess the question is where are the walls, the stopping points? Are there any? And how many tests can we do to prove other things it can do? Can it communicate with other extraterrestrial consciousness? Can it connect to, can we hear from pets? Can we hear from, you know, the line just skyrockets upward like you'd like to see the Dow Jones do, but I don't know where the stopping point is. I don't know what the future exactly is going to hold. Could video somehow become part of this so we could see? Possibly. I haven't even given that a thought yet, but is it possible? Yeah, it is.
Well, tell me, where can the audience find you?
Sure. Easiest places, Facebook under Tony Rathman, YouTube under either Staticom or Entity Voices Paranormal Investigations. on our website at entityvoices.com. And for those super interested, we stopped sharing a lot of the tests and the performances, but we do still share them one place. And yes, it's a Patreon page, so it does cost like $5. But all of our in-depth, all of our tests, all of our next steps, upgrades, what we're working on is shared there. And the only reason we do that is because it keeps the audience, if we know that they've contributed financially, which goes into the research, we know they're interested, we know they're there for a reason, and it just keeps the conversations on a level that we prefer to have them at, rather than fighting people saying, oh, that's BS. This is the farthest thing from it.
Well, Tony, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.
You've been listening to the Gateway Podcast, broadcast live from the edge of the Mojave where the strange slips through the cracks, live on United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM New Orleans. Thank you to my guest, Tony Rathman. He is the builder and founder of Staticom. That's Staticom.com. Thank you all for listening to the Gateway Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It would really mean a lot. Also, leave a review. You can do that on my Facebook channel. It's author at CL Thomas. Share it with a fellow traveler of the strange and unexplained. And until next time, see you guys on down the road.